So we talked about the work plane, the action centers. You can see a few other tools up here. One of them is symmetry. And basically with Modo, you can symmetrize on the X, Y, and Z. I don't even know if that's a word. But you can do your tools on both sides of the axis. Let me just reset here to get everything back to normal. And let's go back to layout and let's add our little doggy. Okay, so he comes in at a perfect 0, 0 axis on the ground. And we'll choose symmetry on the X, which is left and right. And when I come in here, I'm going to press the T key. Let me select my item, of course. And we'll go to polygon mode, press the T key because I want to work with polygons. The T is a transform. And what that allows me to do is click on any element and I can just click and drag. Now notice though, when I click on the right side, the left side goes with. Welcome to symmetry. So it can be really fun, really cool, great for characters like this. The only problem is it's very easy to get messed up. That you accidentally remove something on one side and then it doesn't translate on the other. And if that happens, there is a tool you can use called Symmetry Tool. And so under the Geometry tab at the very top, there's Symmetry Tool. And all you have to do is select that, and then you just click and drag, and you can actually see those points pop up that are not entirely aligned. Now, this one, of course, was working just fine, but you can use that to get things in alignment so your symmetry works. You can only use one axis at a time, X, Y, or Z. As soon as you're done, make sure you turn that off. It will give you many troubles if you leave it on. Another thing up here is fall off. Now, we're going to talk about a lot about different fall offs as they apply to tools. We used one in the previous couple of videos ago on the donut and showed how some of the tools, like our twists and things and these deform and these vortex, have fall offs built into that tool, the way that tool is put together. But you can manually use fall offs. So let me just go here and I'll show you how you can, let's say, take a radial fall off. And when you click in the interface, it says symmetry is not active, and that's fine because we actually turn that off. Now, so we have this radial fall off, and what does this whole thing do? Well, a fall off essentially is where you're telling a certain tool, which we have not chosen yet, to work more in one area and less in the other. It falls off. The power of that tool falls off. Simple enough. When I selected the radial fall off and clicked in the interface, my little control handles popped up here, and this lets me determine where the radial fall off will happen. So of course, strong in the center, and then less on the ends. Okay, so that is how I'm determining this. But what are we going to do with this? Well, you can do a couple of things. Let's do this. I'm going to go File, and I'm going to close all. I'm going to show you a neat little trick here. Still got my radial fall off. I'm going to hold the Shift key, and I'm going to add a ball. Easy enough. And let's center out this radial fall off. Just click on the green handle, and we'll expand it a little bit, and expand it a little bit more, and we'll just encompass this ball like this. All right, so here's the radial fall off. I'm going to press the scale tool right here, and I'm going to click right in the center and scale that ball. Just get right there till it turns yellow. Okay, and this is the only issue, is that you've got so many little handles and everything, it does get confusing. But turn off the tool by pressing the space bar. You can see that here is my fall off in the center. I can translate it or I can adjust it. Okay, press the R key for scale, and another handle comes up a little bit larger, and I'm going to click and drag. Now you can see that there's a little bit of fall off there, but because it's encompassing the whole thing, it doesn't really look like much is happening. But if I move the fall off around, you can actually see it shaping that object. So very interactively, you can do some pretty cool things to get objects in a unique shape. Okay, and as I adjust the scale of the object, you can see that it applies to just where that fall off is. And if I move the fall off, if I get the right handle, see, even I have trouble with it. Okay, so now I'm moving the fall off based on the scale. So I've scaled the object, but now I've adjusted the fall off. So that's kind of cool. Something else you can do though, and let's take a look at what else is up here. There is a noise fall off. This is one of my favorites. So with the noise fall off, what we can do with this, I'll rotate around here. So noise fall off is on. All right, now if I click, you can't really see anything. So if I choose a scale command, look what happens. There's noise within my entire 3D space. So there's not really a handle for it. It's just there. Well, how do you determine that? Well, take a look down here. Again, a fall off applies when you have a tool on. So I've selected scale, and here is the scale with the noise fall off. And look what happens if I adjust this value. If I shrink that scale down, let's say to about 10%, roughly, and now I'm scaling, but that noise is actually smaller. So a great way to make rocks and terrain, everything else quite easily, chewed piece of gum, piece of dirt. So imagine a little bit of modeling time, and then you use a noise fall off like that just to shape that out. If I come over here and turn this off, hold the shift key and add a flat plane, then in polygon mode I'll press shift D, which gives me my subdivide polygons, and I'll do that a few times just to subdivide this flat plane, and I'll just press W to get my transform. And as I move this up with the noise fall off on, I get this great nice plane that I can work with. So just some ways to do things quickly. Modo is all about workflow. I'll press the T key, which is my element move, and then again making sure that these fall offs are off, which they are. And then I'll click on an element, and I can right mouse to change the size of that, and then I can click right on a polygon and just kind of translate it a little bit and just give it some added shape. So quickly and easily with a noise fall off and then my element move transform tool, we are good to go for just any kind of crazy landscape that maybe we could put replicators on, or we could put plants on and things like that. So the last thing in here I want to show you is snapping. And with snapping on, that allows us to snap our object. But we have to determine what's snapping. So when we choose a tool, here's our snapping controls. And we say, let's just say snap to grid. Our grid, of course, is down here. You can see that whole big grid in the 3D space. And now this is snapping based on the grid measurements. Of course, there are very specific controls. You can use a fixed grid for a very small amount, and then you can show that grid. So for you architects out there that are doing very precise designing and layout, that's actually really helpful. We're going to use constrained to background quite a bit for things like topology, one of the most valuable features in Modo when it comes to snapping. But snapping tools, there's not a lot to it. They're very powerful, and I know people have wanted videos entirely on snapping, but they're used more on a case-by-case basis. It's hard to make a video all around snapping. Even though they can get pretty intense, they are really kind of self-explanatory. Just open that up. You've got a grid snap, different different snapping modes based on grid or a pivot or the geometry, points, edges, or polygons, and then different ways it can constrain. And this is more of a global on and off right up here in the top. Okay, so just quick overview on those. Noise fall-offs, radial fall-offs, as well as some of the others that are in there. A lot of fun. I'll show you this because I don't want it to be actually part of the course. Real quick, this actually was part of another course I did. If we take this tube, I press the R key for scale, and I scale it on the X. Of course, we got that nice flask. If we take a fall-off like linear, and then we come around and we just click and drag to determine the fall-off range. Oh, keep my screen there. And then I press the scale tool again, do the exact same thing. More fall-off on the top, less on the bottom, and I was able to make just a nice little tube just like that. Hit the tab key for subdivisions, and then I can build out from there. So fall-offs are really powerful when you're modeling. Initially, they seem like they're just crazy deformation tools, but they do allow you to manipulate your shapes based on some basic tools and give you a lot of control.